Well, hey, this week on the Test Plug we have Matt Barter out of Brunswick, Maine. He's a old friend of mine. He runs Art Studio and has been doing the art game for quite a few years now. Nice to catch up with him. It has been way too long. We also have new music starting and ending with a song from Joel Sanchez, somebody I've known for most of my life. And so it's nice to hear some input from him on some intro and outro music. Not that I forgot you, Jaden, but we're gonna switch things up here and there throughout so we're not always playing the same thing. But now let's talk to Matt Barter. Thanks for watching TestPlug. All right, do one of these numbers. All right, well, Matt Barter, good to see you, man. It's been a few years since I've been there in the old Maine domain. How you doing?
Doing good. We're hanging in there and we're plugging along. We're low gearing right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, when I was there, we just barely turned that garage space into a little bit of a shop. It looks like you've done quite a bit since I left.
Yeah, we finished it all out. We've been open for 2 years now. I show my art downstairs and I work upstairs, so it's kind of just one big package unit. It's an old carriage house
Nice.
that's on the property that we own, so it's pretty sweet little deal.
Cool. And how old is that building?
Well, when we tore out a wall, I found a board that was painted with the number 1935. But since it's a carriage house, I'm assuming it's like pre-World War I. I bet it's like 1910, more or less.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And how does it handle the Maine winters?
We insulated every inch of it, so it does really well. Yeah, I only heat the upstairs, so the downstairs is more just like a seasonal gallery.
Gotcha. And are you displaying just your stuff, or do you have some other people's stuff there as well?
99% mine. I have a local potter that I show. He's out of Lisbon Falls, and I show my dad, but not a lot of my dad. I used to show more of my dad, but we have a gallery in Portland. It's pretty close, and they get kind of territorial. So I have one of my dad's pieces up right now. Yeah.
Nice.
I'm like a southern agent for like if people need a piece, I'll go pick it up and bring it to them and stuff like that. So
okay,
yeah, that's about it.
Nice. Well, you want to show me around a little bit? And
yeah, right. Let's see. So I'm sitting at my counter where I greet people that come in. Behind me is an old barrister's cabinet, as you can see. I pulled it out of a barn in Vermont. My friend was going to take it to the dump, and he sends me a picture and says, "You can come get this today, or I'm taking it to the dump." So I told my buddy, and we jumped in his truck, and we drove 4 hours one way to get it. But I use it for his pottery, and I use it for my little kind of bric-a-brac tchotchke type sculptures. So I'll give you a tour. So this corner right here is kind of, I have this new thing. Well, these are older pieces. You probably remember some of these spacemen.
Oh, yeah.
And I had these in Florida for like 4 years at a gallery, and I just got them back this summer, so I was really excited to get them back. And they're made from wire cloth and canvas. And then the upper shelf is kind of like some pop art style inspired sculptures with some McDonald's food and some other items there. And then this shelf is a little bit topsy-turvy right now because I'm shutting down for the year and I'm starting to bring down sculptures for next year.
Oh, gotcha.
Already. So I'm working on a project right now, which we could have talked about at the end, but I might as well talk about it now because I can show you some of the pieces. I'm going to turn this whole gallery into an installation that's it's going to be a modern design inspired department store.
Okay.
So I want to build some of my own furniture, lighting. I'm going to have a jewelry counter where I design some of my own jewelry, which I've got some pieces here I can show you.
Yeah, I don't think you did much jewelry. You were talking about it a little bit, but I don't remember.
Never before. So these are some brooches. And another like a bird brooch here, like Southwestern inspired.
Yeah. I think I remember seeing those on your Instagram.
Yeah, I did have those. Yeah, so this is basically what do a bunch more though. I've set up a
Okay.
jewelry counter upstairs. So that it also, this show is going to have used rocket parts, which are going to be these really very odd sort of sculptures, new for me. And then
Right.
the last piece of the puzzle is going to be reclaimed. Well, it's going to be, they're called fragments of Columbia. So in 2005, the Columbia shuttle crashed, right?
Right.
On reentry.
Oh, I
And
remember it quite well. I was 7 years old watching outside a window at the time.
crazy, right? Well, that was a different one from the one in Florida. This one crashed over Texas and through the Southwest.
Oh, yeah.
So
Sorry.
so that one was the Krista McAuliffe one.
Right. That was the other one.
Yes, exactly, the other one. So the Columbia one was in 2003 or 4.
Okay.
And I remember distinctly, I was on the beach with my wife in Malaysia, and the fire engines are going by, ironically.
Nice.
I'll give them a chance to go by. So I just saw the headlines, and it just kind of flattened me because I saw the headlines at the coffee place where we were in Malaysia. And the story that kind of really grabbed my attention was the people that were grabbing up the parts of the shuttle that landed to the ground and were trying to sell them.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm going to make some pieces that are just these really sort of meteoric looking reentry fused pieces. Really,
Gotcha.
really out there. So these pieces I'm showing you right now are going to be the rocket parts.
Okay.
So what this is this is going to be a rebreather. So I'm going to put it towards a white background so you can kind of see it better.
Gotcha.
So
Oh, okay.
Roots
Like a
inside
filter
of it.
unit. Yeah.
Filter unit, exactly. It's got a little knob on the back. A lot of these are like vacuum cleaner parts, using some burlap and actually I'm using a new thing, which is reflective paint, which is kind of hard for you to see.
No, but I know what you're talking about for sure.
Yeah,
So,
you get the glass beads, and I've never
yeah.
played with it before. So that's something. And then here's another one here. This is a Geiger counter.
Oh, okay.
So this is a kind of a vacuum cleaner body with some crystals. I've put some, can you see this okay?
Yep.
There's some, like this a vacuum formed this plastic to this like wire armature that I made, and I put some fake flowers inside. And then this one's kind of fun. I think you're going to get a kick out of this one. This is like a food storage unit.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So then I've got this water bottle on the side, and then this one opens up, and then inside are these like little food storage things. Can you see that okay?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So my son was really into this frozen curry dinners, and I kept saving the containers. And I didn't know what I was going to do with them. And then I was like, you know what? I want to make a food storage container, kind of like you might see like on an airplane. But
Right, the little
like
rolling boxes.
NASA inspired. So all this white is that reflective paint there.
Okay.
This is a lamp that I've designed. You can kind of really start to see the 60s modern design influence happening. Right. So if you look carefully, it's like this weird plastic thing. I think I got it off of a toy. It magically sistered with this lamp part that's just this globe thing. And then I wired it up myself, so hopefully I don't burn anything down. But now you can see that this is kind of like where the direction I'm going in for this show.
Gotcha.
And then let's see. So these are my sort of mainstream oil paintings.
Right.
These are my sort of bread and butter, oil on board. I make the panels myself out of masonite with a wooden rail on them, and then shellac them and paint these with oils. And so I'm just going to give you a quick tour of these oils. These are fun. I'm excited about this. So then this piece was the centerpiece. It's really shadowy because I have a lot of afternoon light coming in right now. And so this is it's called a wood relief. It's plywood built up with also some reclaimed plaster lathing and also painted plywood. So I'm going to kind of zoom in a little bit so you can start to see some of the layers here.
Oh, yeah.
You can see the plaster lathing, the painted wood. And if you go like diagonal, then you can start to see the depth there. Do you see?
Oh, for sure. Sure.
Then those are fun. People enjoy those. And then here's
Have you gone through all those buckets of lathing yet?
No, I still have tons. Well, I salvage it wherever I see it. That's how I am. So here's the rest of these sort of landscape kind of painting, seascapes. And then I've got some more of the more Maine boat work inspired ones. This is a rather large one here. It's 5 feet by 4 feet, bigger one. And then I'm just going to go finish out the oil show. So this one's a little bit of a newer style, kind of more modern design. So I might use some of these influences for next year's show. And then I'm just going to go all the way around the gallery so you can get some continuity here. So here's some sculptures that I do. Here's another one of the space series. This one's called the Portable Biome. And it's got a concrete base with these wires coming out.
Right.
And some vacuum cleaner parts. And then I put some little plastic flowers in there, and I'll kind of shrunk wrap plastic over them. So now you're kind of starting to see maybe a few of the different elements that I'm working with.
Right.
And so then this is another thing I like to do, which are these little glass cloche things. So
the little, what do you call them? Terrariums, yeah.
Yeah, this is like a museum cloche. It's a pretty big one. It's about 30 inches tall, I would say. But I like to fill them with really ugly things, like these pink mushrooms. And there's some crystals in there and other things. And it's on one of my own design tables, which is like this. I'll have to hold it up above it. Do you see the face design in it?
Yeah. Yeah, your Barter face.
That's my Barter face. And this one right here is an older piece too. This is the, can you see this? Okay, this is a head. Yeah. That's made out of plywood and Bondo, and it's on one of my weird tables that I've designed. And this right here, I'm pretty excited about. See this booger that came out of his mouth? Yeah. So this is like, it's like a piece of melted aluminum. Me and Ollie hiked up some train tracks, and we found somebody had melted a ton of aluminum up in the woods somewhere. And we harvested a bunch of these weird blobby things, drippy aluminum blobs. We dragged them back. It was a lot of work, actually. It was pretty heavy. And I've been playing with it. And then I'll show you later, but I even started melting my own aluminum just for fun.
Nice.
And so then this is one of the pieces also that I make is this large wooden sculpture with these guys working on a boat.
Yeah.
And that's kind of goes along with the boat work show. And then here's a sculpture of a guy with a wheelbarrow. Can you see that guy?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And so that's kind of the tour of the downstairs. I guess I could show you my potter. This is Tim Fisher. He does really nice work.
He does do really nice work. I have a couple of whiskey cups from him.
Yeah. So he does these nice things.
Yeah.
And that's about it for downstairs here. Do you want to go upstairs?
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's check it out. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I got a couple more of these weird rocket parts here. But yeah, I'm really excited about them because they're like totally divergent from anything I've ever done. You know, mostly what I do is figurative, like people, human forms.
Right.
And so to make something like a rocket part or like a piece of something that's like really hard to see what it is, it's kind of fun. So this is my studio. This is the entry to my studio. I started doing this with my old brushes, kind of attaching them to the wall here. So now we're going upstairs. And I've got this sort of deer head to greet you at the top of the stairs. You probably remember that one from the show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so then this is like a shelf here. So here's some more kind of inspirational pieces for the Supermod show that I'm working on. And this is a game that I designed. It's called Chernobyl. So it's kind of like a Jenga sort of stacking game.
Right.
I had all these little wooden blocks. I can't remember. I think I got them off the side of the road for free at a yard sale. Someone was making buoy keychains. So if you look at this right here, do you see this?
Oh, right.
So there's a box of them, and they were for free, and I just grabbed them with a bunch of other weird stuff. And I started gluing them together because I was like, either I burn these or I just play with them, basically. And then I made these weird little shapes, right? See?
Yep.
And then when I was playing with them, I realized that they stack really well together, okay?
Okay.
Almost like a Jenga type game, okay? And so then the idea is you take turns stacking them to see how high up you can get them without them falling over. When they fall over, you yell meltdown, you know, like so the Supermod show is going to have some sort of facets to it that are sort of kind of man stupidity, you know, like the re-entry Columbia reentry. Not that it was stupid that they crashed it, but it was stupid that people selling parts of it. And, you know, obviously Chernobyl, that was stupid. So here's some pieces of some stuff I'm working on right now. I'm casting some concrete.
Okay.
So these are going to be whatever I kind of want them to be. This is kind of like a base for something, probably. You can see this.
Gotcha.
So it's like a milk jug. I took a milk jug and I cast some concrete with some steel coming out. And from there, I can just pretty much do whatever I want. I can attach wood, burlap, whatever I want. This is one of the only sort of recognizable pieces from that grouping for now. This is a glove that I cast concrete into.
Okay.
And this would be sort of like a spaceman glove.
Yeah.
You know, going along with that Columbia theme, you know, parts of the ship that landed.
Right.
And they were finding like parts of spacesuits and patches, and they're putting them on eBay. And I was like, it really annoyed me big time. Anyway, so that's part of that. And then, yeah, so there's that. This is where I paint over here. I kind of forgot what I was doing. So there's some pieces over here there's some paintings over here that I've started. This is my easel right here. Some paints. And I actually started doing something I've never done before, which is pre-mixing my oil colors so that when I go to the easel, I can almost just paint right out of the little jar instead of mixing them on the palette.
You kind of go with like seasonal themes a little bit, don't you? Where you use kind of the same colors for like 4 or 5 paintings, and then
definitely, yeah, I'll dial in on a palette, and like those Skudik ones downstairs, it was a limited palette of only like 6 or 8 colors, and from there, it really helps me to focus on my composition when I'm not thinking too much about color. So this is a newer piece on the easel. You can see kind of that I've gotten away from that limited palette. And I'm working with some new colors. I was looking through Instagram, and I love looking through the art because you have these different art, modern art. I don't know which bloggers, I guess you would call them. And I found these 2 Milton Avery paintings that were just so good and just super great. And I just kind of pulled a few of the colors and some of the elements from those. This is another wood relief that I'm working on right now. I might back up so you can see it. And I'm using those newer colors with this. So this one I'm excited about. This is sort of up and down. It would probably be better if it was like that's the way it's going to be viewed when we're done with it. And this is my rack where I rack my work when I'm in between. So I'll probably have 5, 6 paintings on here that I'm in the middle of working on.
Right.
This is a chair that I designed for the Supermod show. Doesn't really show well in here because it's super cluttery. But this is kind of like ground control too. I remember I made the David Bowie chair.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So this is another one, and this one's got a cool light attached that I still need to wire. But so some of the details for this would be like right here. There's a phone for calling Houston. And then there's like these cool little storage thing on there. I basically took 2 really ugly mid-century chairs and I like stripped them down to plywood and metal and just fused them together. Create that.
Nice.
And then
super comfortable, I'm sure too.
Oh yeah, that thing is like look at this, like this ugly headrest is so fun. Like see it's got that sort of exposed
oh yeah,
all thread rod top on it. So anyway, today I got a shipment of plywood, so I just started cutting it up, and I'm starting to prime it because what happens if I don't prime it is it gets all warped.
Oh yeah.
I want to prime it and stash it so this winter I'll have plenty of material, so I don't have to go out to the hardware store when there's like 4 feet of snow in the ground.
Right.
And this is a new addition. This is just my.
And you stop at Goodwill on the way, and that costs you extra money.
Yeah, go to Starbucks, go to Goodwill, go to the hardware store. Next thing you know, you got no money left. So this is my new addition. Is this jewelry bench?
Okay.
And so like the toy thing, I'm kind of excited about. The modern department store is going to have a toy section, and so I'm working on. I just found this book at Goodwill actually. So,
okay.
This is all Disney, vintage Disney toys. Really geeking out about this Donald right here with this. Can you see that okay?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I want to make some of these items here, kind of like Murky Mouse Revisited.
I was just gonna say Murky
Yeah,
show a reappearance. Do you
Murky's
have any
my.
Murky pieces left?
I've given a lot of them away. Let me see. I might have under here. The better ones were the ones made out of hardware cloth and white and
Yeah,
bondo.
yeah.
But I do have this guy right here. This guy he was one of the um, he was made from a stuffed Mickey, remember?
Yeah, I remember those.
And I just dipped him in resin and painted him up really funky. So I kept one just for fun. But yeah, I've given most of them away. The best one Joby Cole has, and he borrowed it, so I'm gonna get that one back for the show because I need that
Nice.
one. Another kind of toy inspiration for the show is like 70s Fisher Price stuff. So I've made these like, remember those Fisher Price people?
Oh yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I remember them well.
So this isn't fully finished, but you can see I've got 3 of them here.
Okay.
I played with these when I was a kid, like extensively. They had the little airport and the trucks and the baggage, and they were just the best. So
well, it was all about imagination. They didn't have 50,000 parts. They had 3 parts.
exactly, and no arms.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was all about imagination. So I'm excited about that. Yeah. Anything you want to ask? Oh, here's the. I want to show you this. If I can open this without getting a bunch of sawdust in here. This is the glass beads that I got. This is a new. I got some sawdust in there. So do you see this right here?
Oh wow, it's like a pearlescent, like a pearled glass.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can add this to your paint, or what I found works better. Put the paint on, and then you dump a bunch of this on there.
Oh yeah.
And it sticks into the paint. So I've been wondering how they did it, but like on the old fire hydrant heads, you'd be walking through the old port or whatever, and you'd be like, "Whoa!" It just all of a sudden just like comes
like a
out
beacon.
at you.
Yeah.
Yeah, light hits it just right, and I was like, I never could figure out how they did that. And then my friend who works for the DOT was like, "Oh, that's just glass beads. You get them at Sherwin-Williams." So I was like, "Holy cow!" So I just ordered.
You should really look into artwork, because there's a lot of stuff you can learn, Matt.
I know. Yeah. It's amazing what you can learn when you ask the right question to the right person. One of my other favorite material sourcing is free items. I just picked this up this morning. It's this super ugly hamper, but it's got this really great metal pattern. So I'm just going to cut this out and maybe, form it and cast it in concrete as part of the, fragments of Columbia, some of that really abstract stuff.
Be a cool keep a chunk of it for stencil work or something too, because it does have a neat pattern to it.
Yeah, you're right. Good idea. And so these are my bins. Okay, here's the aluminum that I was telling you about that I found on the ground in
weird.
Bodenham. Yeah. So I don't know what they were doing. Maybe they're melting. It was an accident. I don't know what happened, but there's a ton of this. I have a whole box of it. And when I was there, I was like, I have to learn how they did that. So I started melting my own aluminum. And these are some of the blobs that I was able to make here. Do you see those okay?
Yep. Yeah.
I basically just took my old table saw top and I put it on my fire outside, and I just I just let it melt down, and it looked like something from like Sigourney Weaver would have interacted with,
Oh yeah. There's an alien breathing behind that somewhere.
Yeah, there's some slime falling through here, some alien blood. So yeah, I want to play more with that. But yeah, so materials new this year, I would say melted aluminum, the glass beads. I'm working with some burlap and concrete. We'll see whatever else we can come up with this year.
And I'm sure you're melting that in a really well ventilated area. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, I'm melting it outside, and I did notice that my throat was closing up the next day, so. I think I'm not going to do it anymore until I figure out the safe way of doing it. Yeah.
The safe way, have your children do it. That's
right. Their lungs are fresh.
Exactly.
They've got a lot of
Yeah.
life left.
They haven't been breathing in thinners and paint materials for years at this point.
Exactly.
Any new places you're going to be showing work?
Well, the awesome thing about having my gallery downstairs is it's a place that I can just create a show and just hang it,
Right.
which is something I'm really getting excited about. The old days of making a show and then trying to find a place that'll exhibit it. It might be a coffee shop. It might be like that place with that crazy guy.
Right. Right.
I'm not going to say where, but places where it's not an ideal place.
Yeah.
It's not a gallery, because a gallery is concerned about making money. So it's hard for them to show an installation.
Right.
Where's
right.
the money coming in from that?
Yeah.
So having my own space that I can control, curate, is just a game changer. This thing keeps, this sound you keep hearing is this little wind-up
Wind up.
dinosaur. It's vintage wind-up dinosaur bones, and he just keeps going on. I can't get him to stop. So
Life will find a way.
thank you. Jurassic Park. It's funny, I've been nerding out over the Jeff Goldblum series on Disney Plus.
Yeah, it's actually pretty good. He's really become his own freedom. Like, he can do whatever he wants now, whereas before he was, under a director's thumb a little bit, where now he's just Jeff Goldblum.
He's a great rambler,
Yeah.
And just to listen to him ramble is actually worth watching the show. Yeah.
Well, I mean, realistically, the reception's really good here. We might as well just continue on here as opposed to breaking it up. So let's get a little bit into where you started and what inspires you.
So
where do you start with art?
I was born and raised in Down East Maine, near Acadia. And my dad was an artist growing up, but he kind of wore a lot of hats to make ends meet, because I had 6 brothers and sisters. So you can imagine, that was pretty rough, economically speaking, right? And
right.
if you've ever been to that region, you'll know that it's a very depressed area financially, economically. So he, I don't know how he did it. Anyway, it was, so I guess in the 90s, when I was a teenager, his art career kind of took off. So he built a studio out back, and I kind of worked in that studio when I was 15 to 18 years old, those really formative years.
Right.
And not only did I, work on the mechanical parts, stretching canvas, sizing canvas, framing, doing all the sort of grunt work, right, in an art studio.
Yeah.
My dad was painting these antique furniture with like some boat paint. He would buy these antique dressers and paint them really crazy colors and stuff.
Right.
And people would love them, and they kind of went crazy when he was doing them, and they bought them all, whatever. But the problem with the boat paint is my dad was having a hard time keeping up with the paint. It was setting up too fast for him.
Oh, okay.
So I'm working there on some canvas or stretching some canvas, and he's like, hey, grab that brush and that can of paint and just watch me and follow me. So at that point, I was blending colors with him, and we'd work our way right around a piece of furniture so that the paint would stay wet and we could kind of tool it with our brushes and make, do whatever. And I think that was really like a game changer for me, like playing with the paint, watching the color blend, seeing how you could turn this ugly piece of furniture into something really cool and unique. And so then from there, I kind of moved out on my own. I, got married when I was really young. We traveled a lot. We lived very cheaply, and I didn't really take the art seriously until like 10 years ago. And then I had bought my first house, and I had a little tiny rinky-dink studio out back that was basically like 10 by 12 or something. It was like a closet. It was like a shed, basically.
It was the side of a chicken coop.
When I moved my tools in and my workbench, I basically could hardly fit in the space. But with that said, I made some really big pieces out there, and it kind of really helped me to get my feet under me. And then we moved to Brunswick, and we got this carriage house. That was like 6 years ago. And basically took 2 or 3 years of my life. You were there for a lot of that. and I tunneled underneath it, did a ton of structural work to it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Opened it.
that barn was all kinds of racked and
Oh, it was a crazy mess. So when we did the sheathing on the inside, because it was sheathed on the outside, obviously, but when we sheathed the inside, we basically created these shear walls, which really structured it well.
oh yeah.
And, finally got approval from the town to open my gallery. So we've been open for 3 years now, maybe.
Nice.
And every year gets better, except for this year went worse, obviously, because no one was up from the Massachusetts area.
Yeah, the tourist industry kind of had a little bit of a hit this year.
Yeah. With that said, though, we kind of hunkered down and we were careful, and we actually came out pretty well this year. So I was able to prepay my bills and get my material set up so I can take the winter off, which I like to do, and
Yeah.
climb into my studio and just play,
Sweet.
So that's the story. And, picked up a lot of tricks along the way as far as my work. I incorporate a lot of my house painting, carpentry skills in my work. And I think when, you do your research and you start studying art, you pick up a lot of tricks. And one of my favorite things that I learned was from Frank Gehry, in that when he looks at a material, whatever it is, it could be a material that you use every day in the architecture world, he will look at it and say, okay, what else can I use this for? What other purpose can I use this for? And that was really changed my whole thinking on material sourcing and what products to use and different things. So it helped me to see that art can be more than just stretched canvas with paint on it. It can be found object. It can be wire cloth and, burlap or whatever you kind of have readily available.
Well, it really kind of speaks the core of what a Maynard is too, I think. Maybe you could probably explain that a little better than I could, seeing as I am not one. And it's
definitely, yeah.
Look, and
well,
I was going to say,
just when you said Maynard, you added a D to Maynard. So that's a tell right there. So yeah, Maynard philosophy is save your money and save your materials and scraps, and they'll have jars with 1 or 2 nails in it, just in case, So if you go into a Maynard, a Downeaster's garage or workspace, they'll have just the stupidest stuff that they can't get rid of because they might need it someday.
Yeah.
A little scrap of fiberglass that they could patch a hole in a boat with, or, whatever they save. And now looking around my studio, I'm laughing at them at their frugality, but I'm looking around my studio and I'm like, I am a complete Mainer. So I save these pudding cups, and I cast some concrete in them because I'll show you this. So I cast some concrete in them right here. See, look at this.
Right.
See,
oh,
but
okay.
it's attached to a little mini cable. Okay, so I just put these lights in. Do you see these lights? New lighting. They're super great, but I attached them directly to the ceiling. But they came with these little cables with these little loops on them.
Okay.
And when I saw those, I was like, well, those are cool. I can't throw those away. So I saved all of these. And so so what these are is going to be maybe like a counterweight on a sculpture, or
okay,
just like a little thing. I don't know what I just cast them. I'm going to figure it out later. So anyways, the frugality is a big deal for me. I've saved these Starbucks bags. I'm going to pour them with concrete in a really sort of, I'm going to use the thickness of the plastic to kind of create some really interesting shapes with the concrete. So yeah, definitely when you're born and raised poor in down East Maine, you learn to save and scrimp and use what you got.
Where did the boat life part of that come into your art?
Yeah, I think I've told you about this before, but like the Downeasters use a word called glom, right? To slap things together. So on a boat, they might be offshore and they're like, oh, great, this thing just broke off. What do we do? Okay, we'll just glom it back on until we can get back to shore. And that basically means glue it, screw it, duct tape it, however you can get it to work so the
Right.
boat doesn't sink and we can get back and fix it. You'll hear a lot of it like, oh, glom that right on there. Oh, the roof has got a hole in it. We'll just go glom this piece of top paper on there and just put it right up there. And, it'll be fine till spring, we'll fix it later kind of thing.
Get it through the season, get it through the winter. Yeah.
Exactly. Whatever you can do to get through that season or that, expedition now offshore. So that mentality is in there too. And so when I was working on a series I called Glom, I didn't realize that I was actually using a lot of techniques and tricks that are a very accepted form of art, which is called bricolage. And I think Tom Sachs does a lot of bricolage. And basically the structure of bricolage is you're making something at a very fast pace with ready materials, whatever's lying around. And so if you're fabricating, you're like, oh man, I need this thing. So just grab that thing right there and use it. And so
Gotcha.
it's not like you're thinking, okay, what materials am I going to use for this project? It's, holy crap, I want to get this done. Grab that board and that screw gun and just throw it together. And
Right.
so I'm making it sound more ridiculous than it is, but it's a really fun way to build. Let me show you this deer head, for instance. This I would consider bricolage. So do you see this deer now here?
Yes.
Okay. So these are parts of a PVC 5-gallon bucket. Do you see this?
Yep.
So do you see how that's brown? I sprayed that brown, but I sprayed it in place so you can see how the paint got into here. The bottom is like this fur that I had lying around. This is a piece of drop cloth that I painted pink. This is an old piece of plywood. I think this is a toilet bowl float, which would have been like on a copper thing.
Yeah.
And this is just a piece of I think it's like inner cloth from an old jacket I had, plaster lathing, wire cloth, some antlers I had lying around. And then, so if you look at the tag itself, because I saved the original tag, you can kind of see what it's from the Glom show.
Glom show.
2013. So that was 7 years ago. But that's a very Glom sort of bricolage style of just throw it together and, make it work, like the old make it work thing.
I've always been, as far as with your work, I do love the cannery stuff and all those things, but you can tell that this is what pays the bills a little bit, and this is where my heart is a little bit. Not that the other stuff isn't inspired by your heart, but you can definitely see the difference of like, this is what I want to make, whereas this is what I need to make.
Yeah, I definitely think that you have your sort of bread and butter oil paintings that people will like and buy, and they do fund the experimentation. And I think what you said, your heart and soul is in the experimentation, because that's where the fun is. Yeah. It's like the burning end of the stick. It's on fire. It's like combusting and the smoke is coming off of it and you're excited about it. The rest of it has just been burned off and it's just a cinder and you're like, yeah, whatever. Right. And so I think that's why as an artist, you're so excited about the experimentation. It's like finding a new toy. The old toy's great. The old toy's, it's still there, but the new one, whoa, right? Get that out of the package and start playing
that
with
Buzz
it.
Lightyear out.
So yeah. Exactly. Yes.
What made the transition to sculpture? I mean, I know you haven't fully but where did the sculpture part of it come in? Because I know the painting part's more from your dad, but
yeah. So when we lived in Oregon, I didn't really have a proper studio. I kind of got bounced around a lot between spaces that I could work in. One of the spaces I worked in was, I had the run of this giant basement of this apartment building we lived in. And the owner was an art collector. He loved my work. I ended up trading him a lot of pieces for studio space. So I had a run of like maybe 30,000 square feet of this basement. But the problem was, I was worried that the painting fumes were going to start to go up and affect the tenants upstairs.
Oh, gotcha.
Because the painting fumes are super toxic. Like when I'm painting them, I've got a full like respirator on with the charcoal cartridges. And then when I'm done, I have to leave the studio immediately. And then I usually wait a day or two before I come back in and the fumes are dissipated. But with the rental above me, I was like thinking, well, there could be a little kid there. There could be a pregnant mother, expecting mother. I mean, all these things go through your head. And I was
Right.
thinking these fumes are just so deadly and toxic and terrible that I decided to just start sculpting. And I was working for my brother-in-law's, and in Oregon, when you're tearing apart an old building or something, every stick of wood you take out of that building is like old growth Douglas fir. And you
Oh
probably
yeah.
encounter this in Seattle too when you're doing
Yeah,
demolition.
for sure.
And I was in love with this wood. It was just tight grain, beautiful stuff. And so I started playing with it, sculpting, carving in it mostly. Like we would get an 8x8 dimensional piece of Douglas fir, and I would just be super like excited, started hacking into it. I had terrible tools. Like the tools I had were terrible. Like, and I was making, but the thing I realized was, as when you go into something, you always want to sketch, right? To sketch it
Right.
ahead of time to make sure you know what you're doing, and you
Have a
know
little plan.
have a plan of attack. When I realized when you go from one dimensional to like three dimensional is that you have to sketch all the sides of it, which
Yeah.
sounds so simple, but not to me. And so when my first sculpture just looked terrible, like it looked good when you looked at it this way, but when you turned it, it just was just terrible.
Yeah.
And so when I started sketching things three dimensionally, it's like almost like when Alice fell down into the rabbit hole. It was like discovering another world existed. Okay. And
Yeah, yeah.
I got obsessed with it, and I just really loved it, you know, playing with that sort of dimensional quality of sculpture. And that's when I kind of got hooked on sculpting, was at that point. So when I came back to Maine, I went right from living in the middle of Portland, Oregon, it's this beautiful city, beautiful community, to living back by my parents in down East Maine. And I went right to working on a lobster boat for 2 years. It was this huge contrast of
Oh yeah.
culture and everything. And I was able to paint in my dad's studio for a couple years. And it was just a really cool time. And that's when I kind of cemented my feet in the ground as a Maine artist, was at that point.
Gotcha. Were the heads, were they started at that point, or is that later on?
Let's see. So when I bought my first house in Richmond, I had enough space to make these wooden head things. So then when I got the house in Brunswick, I wanted to set up a gallery, and my friend was like, I was like, hey, I want to build this giant head and put it on the side of the road to get people to come to my gallery. And he was like, yeah, you have to do it. So he kind of dared me to do it. And I never would have done it if he hadn't dared me, because I can't back down from a dare, right? So I made some of these giant heads, if you can see that, right?
Yeah.
Um,
But that's not a new thing for you. You've been making those heads for a while.
yeah, I haven't made them to this scale though. Like I'll show you
Right.
the ones you remember. I actually have a whole wall of them over here. So when you approach the gallery, it's kind of the first thing you see is these heads over here. So
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah, so
man.
you remember these ones, right?
Yeah, for sure.
They're big, but they're like not huge. There's like they're about 4 feet tall.
Right, because it's a sheet of plywood based, basically, and
Exactly.
then
It's the width of a sheet of plywood, and then so you can kind of see. But then making the other head, this one over here I just showed you is about
yeah.
4x6. The one out front is like 8x6, so it's
Oh
way
wow.
bigger.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna walk up my driveway.
Well, you don't have snow yet, I see.
No snow. I don't think we'll see snow for a while. It's one of those weird years where the temperature goes up and down, and what'll happen is you'll get a cold front will come through, and this Arctic air will sort of come down, but it's very dry. It'll push
Gotcha.
all the moisture south to like Connecticut, Pennsylvania, and when the moisture does like push it far north enough, it's very warm. So we'll just get cold rain, a lot of sleet. It's not like back in the day when we get a nor'easter and we'd have the Arctic air slide under the warm,
Okay.
wet air, and you'd get
Right.
a lot of snow, a lot of weather. I just got to check my mail. All right. Oh yeah, this is my mailbox.
Nice. Does
So,
the monkey still live next door?
yeah, the monkey's still there. So this is how we get my mail right here. It's kind of like something from Pee Wee's Big Adventure. Remember, he had like his whole yard was like crazy,
Right.
weird, like stuff. Yeah, yeah. The monkey is next door. I haven't seen him lately. The lady that owns the monkey, her health isn't great, so she stays inside a lot. But yeah, this is my. So you can kind of see down my driveway. This is my studio, and then beyond that is the house.
I was gonna say, have any of your brothers and
Well,
sisters followed art, or were you pretty much the only one?
that's a good question. Um, let's see. My brother is he's a composer, so he
Okay.
composes music. There was a piano in our house growing up. His name is Jack Barter, and there's a piano, and no one played with it except for my little brother. He could barely reach the keys. I mean, he'd be reaching up
Right.
above his head to bang on the keys, even sitting on the stool. And he could pound out these crazy like tunes.
Right.
And he learned to write songs, and he would sing along to the songs, and it was just crazy. And then as he got older, his music became really good. And he hasn't done anything with it career wise. Probably the biggest things he's done is working with me on dumb projects like, hey, I need a song for this little short video I make or something.
Right. Right.
And I'm working on a documentary right now. This guy's doing a documentary about me and my dad, and I think I'm going to have like at least 3 or 4 songs by Jack in that documentary. So,
Nice.
but he writes some really good stuff. He could write for Hollywood, because his music has got this really great power to it, and it's intense. But he doesn't want to be a part of that whole scenes. I don't blame him. So he just tinkers around and plays for his own enjoyment and for his family, which is nice. So. Yeah, and then as far as the rest of the family, I would say my sisters are talented. Never really done anything like to the scale that I've been working. Yeah.
Well, it's definitely a you have to make that your career almost. You have to make that. Well, you have to really hone on that passion part of it to make it. I guess maybe that's a better way to put it as far as a career, because we all do things in the background to pay for making art.
There's a lot of things when you're the son of an artist, or daughter of an artist. There's a lot that's going to get in your way of making it a career choice. Number one, you've got this sort of big presence, your dad, who's an artist, he's sort of like this towering figure. So what do? Do you reject, his style, his material source? Do you reject all that and sort of head off on your own track like this, the antithesis of what he's doing? Or do you sort of align yourself with that style and sort of attach yourself to it? And I looked at both pathways and I said, you know what? I love my dad. I love what he does. Why would I try to do something that's divergent from him?
Right.
Why not learn from him, study him, and then use what I've learned to make my own style?
Yeah.
That took me 25 years to do that. Right?
Yeah. Because I mean, even though you can see some similarities in color use and stuff like that from your dad's stuff, it really is very different.
So you embrace it, right? You don't.
Yeah.
And my dad is cool enough, and he loves me enough to say, yeah, I love your work, and I want you to keep doing it. So there was no competition. There was no sense of animosity. It was go team,
Right.
And what my dad brings to the table is this beautiful lifetime of experience and his understanding. And I tell my dad, what I bring to the table is the energy.
We're breaking up a little bit here. Hold on.
And so the two cover, I'm wondering if that could be the issue. I'm on my LTE right now.
That
makes a difference.
Yeah, I don't know. It comes back and then it's fine. So, but that's the first time it's done it.
Okay. Everything's cool. Yes, I was going to show you my sketchbook. Do you have anything else you wanted to chat about? The being your dad's shadow kind of thing.
Well, I was going to say, I think the other foot of that is that a lot of artists are very soul-minded, so they're not always the best parent, or not. This isn't coming about your dad because I don't really know your dad, but lots of times I think that that's where children kind of battle with that too, is they see maybe how they were raised or how they were neglected because of the art or something like that, and it kind of puts a sour taste in their mouth too. So, I think with family members, it's always interesting to see A, where their inspiration came from, but B, how many people in their family are doing that because of different scenarios. It's an interesting life.
Yeah. There's a million ways it could go, right? You could
Yeah.
have a terrible relationship with your dad, and it would be something that was a source of contention for you, or he was so focused on the art that you felt neglected, or there's so many
Yeah.
different terrible things that could happen. And that's why I think it is rare for there to be multiple generations of artists, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times what happens is you're raised in this environment, but then you're like, I hate this environment. I'm going to become a computer software technician, or I want to be a paralegal.
Right.
And,
Right.
or you see the financial struggle, and you're like, I'm going to be a dental hygienist. Forget this. I want to make money. I want to eat. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of different ways it could go. It just so happened that I saw that my dad enjoyed it. He could make a living, and I also saw that it was a really fun thing to do.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
And I mean, you're not 25 right now either. You've been working on this for a while to get to this point.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
I think it's interesting with people who do, we'll just say abstract art, or blocky or whatever. Um, there's a lot of mentality like, oh, I could just throw that stuff on and make $1 million myself. But what you see is throughout all of your art pieces, it may look chunky or thrown together, but it's the exact same shape, it's the exact same style, and it's something that you can't just recreate that if you don't have those skills or those talents. And it's been fascinating to me because I know quite a few artists now, and sure, they might make something that looks like just something thrown on a piece of paper, but that same person can also draw like a perfect face or a perfect, like it's the 10,000 hours thing where you've spent so much time doing this that you can draw that same character every single time.
Right. Yeah. I think what I'm noticing is that I look at something, how I want to build something, and I try to keep my build or design within a framework that I'm comfortable with.
Yeah.
The way that I build something, I want it to last a long time. So there's the archival issue. You don't want to just have something made that's wonderful and people buy it and then it just crumbles on them.
Right.
So there's a lot of strictures that I hold my work to, and I think it's similar with a lot of artists. And I think as an artist, when you start to take yourself more seriously, you start to say to yourself, okay, I made this and I love it. How did it happen? Right.
Yeah.
And you go back to your sketchbook, you go back to your notes, and you look and you figure it all out so you can do it again and again and again.
Well, I was thinking even like the heads on the side of your house. How many times have you moved those things around?
Dozens.
And I mean, and they've gone through 2 or 3 winters now on the side of the house, and they're still structurally sound. They're still beautiful and, taken care of in a different type of way because it's weathered material. So actually the weathering outside is kind of changing the patinas and stuff on them, I'm sure. But it's signs of craftsmanship. It's signs of, actually putting time and love into something as opposed to just throwing it together.
Yeah, I think that I appreciate. That's a nice compliment. Thank you, Jeremy. Yeah, you have to think of the archival quality of something, and if it's going to be an inside or outside sculpture. But yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
And I know because I've moved several of those heads, and some of them are very heavy.
Yeah, they're bulky.
Your driftwood parts, driftwood animals. Actually, that's the other thing. Is that showing anywhere right now, or is that around? Or
The drift? You mean they're like the prehistoric beasts?
yeah, yeah.
Well, a lot of them are gone, and the ones that I have are kind of in storage. That was a project that I was inspired by my youngest son, Oliver. We went to the history museum, the Natural History Museum in New York. And we spent all day just looking at all these incredible ancient beasts that I never even existed, and they're just they're fantastic, and they look fake, because they're just
Right.
they have these weird horns coming out. And there was a deer that only had antlers on one side of its head, and I was just like, I was blown away by the diversity of animals that didn't exist. It kind of played into my whole extinction issue that I have with modern man and how careless they are with this sort of fragile structure of the earth,
Right.
And so going through all these extinct animals kind of made me think, that it's stupid the way that man treats the earth. But anyways, I went through these and I was like, I really want to make some sculpture. So I worked on that for a while. I don't do a lot with that right now, but I still have some of the pieces, and it was a fun show.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, your work, like I said, is always been something that has inspired me to be more creative. It's your use of different materials is as far as an art goes, I think is some of my favorite type of art, I should say. So I've always really enjoyed that. Not that a beautiful Rembrandt isn't a beautiful Rembrandt, but just using the abstract to bake something that looks so close to reality, but isn't reality. I think with a lot of your work, like that deer, for instance, in the stairwell there, you can 100% look at that and see it's a deer, but it's so Matt Barter at the same time.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Well, what is interesting is that an artist should represent the time period that he lived, right?
Right.
Like Rembrandt represents the time of Rembrandt when it was before they had synthesized color. So most of his paintings are umbers and ochres and, layers and layers of linseed oil to kind of create those three-dimensional effects. But nobody cares about that.
Right.
They care about the modern way that we live. We live in a very different way now.
Yeah.
We don't sit around and watch paint dry. We are wondering what's the next super fast thing that's going to come flying down the line, right?
Yeah.
So art kind of represents that. What's the next thing? This summer when that guy duct taped that banana to the canvas and they sold it, it was the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And it just kind of plays into this whole what's the next thing kind of thing. And in my mind, I'm trying to avoid that thought process because it's a dark chasm that leads down into a hole. There's some out there that I really love, like Banksy and all these different ones that are always thinking of these great ideas. Like the thing with the painting that shredded itself inside the frame. Just a beautiful mind, just fantastic, right? And part of me is like, oh, wouldn't it be great to work at that level? But then you have to remember, artists at that level, they have a team of probably 20 or 30 people that work for them full time, right?
Right.
So I'm just by myself, tooling around in my studio, seeing what I can throw together and having fun doing it, right?
Yeah.
And that's the way I choose to be, I think,
Well, and it's worked for you too, so
yeah.
I would.
I'm having a lot of fun and enjoying life and making stuff.
Nice. Well, this has been real fun, Matt. It's been way too long in between.
I agree.
Forward to next year's show.
Next time we do this, let's have a beer in our hand and just catch up. All right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Well, we're gonna say a goodbye, but not a goodbye right now. So, thanks for watching TESTPLUG, man.
You got it.